Welcome to the Test Design Specialist Level 1 course. This course is meant to prepare you to become a test design specialist, which means learning how to work in the yellow and red sections of Tricentis Tosca, that is, requirements and test case design. But before you begin, let's discuss why this is important and how it fits into the classic software testing life cycle. The cycle begins by analyzing the requirements for the software to be tested. Here is where we answer questions like, what are the requirements for my software? What areas need to be tested? And what risk is attached to these requirements? This will all be done in the requirements section of Tricentis Tosca. Once this stage has been completed, you'll move on to the test planning stage. This involves estimating how many test cases are needed to recover the requirements you have defined and what these tests will look like later on, as well as which data combinations need to be tested. This is all done in the test case design section. This information is then used in test case development, which of course you've already learned in the automation specialist courses. Once the test environment has been set up, the test cases are executed and the execution results are analyzed, defect analysis is undertaken, and finally reports of the test results are created. These results are then projected onto the requirements to determine what is left to be done as part of the cycle. And then the software cycle begins again. In this course, we will focus on the first two phases of this cycle. So let's have a brief chat about requirements. Defining requirements is essential for effective test management. This definition is usually done at the beginning of the test process and can be done directly in Tricentis Tosca. It is possible in Tosca to track which requirements have already been tested during the test process and which requirements have not yet been tested fully. This helps you obtain an overview of the current state of the test progress. Through risk priority assessment, you will be able to weight your requirements to determine where the greatest risk lies and where you should begin testing. With this, it is possible to determine what risks have already been covered and how high the risk would be to go into production at any given time. Why is this important? Well, first of all, you can ensure that the test focus can be placed on the most critical areas. Secondly, problem areas of your system under test are discovered early, which means that action can be taken immediately. Finally, risks can be continuously monitored to measure the status of the project and its quality. So now let's talk about test case design, the red section. Once you've set up your requirements, you would want to start planning or specifying your test cases. This specification means receiving information about the application from developers and test data from business analysts, and then translating this into a business readable format. During the testing process in many projects, only about a quarter of the time is spent specifying test cases, usually using an intuitive approach. This often results in having redundant test cases that cover the most important requirements more than once and that do not cover requirements with a lower risk. Following this, about 3/4 of the time is then spent on execution. This large chunk of execution time is then repeated during regression tests over and over. If the time spent executing the test could be minimized, this would greatly affect the overall time spent testing. The Tricentis approach to test case design is based upon more time being invested up front in test case specification, which results in less time required for the actual execution. Investing time in the design wisely can save valuable time and money whilst increasing the quality of the test. And it's not just about designing fewer test cases, but also more precise test cases to avoid redundancies and maximize test coverage. With the Tricentis approach, each test case has a clear, defined goal to make error analysis easier. These test cases are then easier to maintain and adjust. Test case design can also help you organize your smoke tests, regression tests, and one-time tests. Test case design in Tosca allows you to ensure a more efficient and effective testing process. Finally, that link back to requirements ensures that you have a good overview of the risk contribution of each test case you have designed. The requirements section then serves as a test management dashboard to get a quick overview of the current state of your entire project. We will explain the methodology in more detail as you proceed through the course. So with that, let's get started.